Through hulls are the first line of defense between the water outside the boat coming into the boat, and sometimes they need to be replaced. Hi, I'm Nika Waters, and welcome to the Boat Galley Podcast. Today I'm going over 5 steps of replacing your through hulls, because sometimes that's a job that just has to be done. Today's episode of the Boat Galley Podcast is sponsored by Yugo Wear. Yugo is the only waterproof floating phone case using dry suit zipper technology. Invest in your safety, because if you don't protect, you can't connect. Your electronics are fully functional while inside, and there's plenty of room for your keys, cash, and cards. To get the only dry bag on the market with 0 device fails, visit www.yugowear.com. That's UGOWEAR.com. Use coupon code SAVE20BG for 20% off. Yugo, just add water. We are in the process of replacing every single below the waterline through hull on the boat. All parts of them. The ones that we're taking out are ones that we put in a really long time ago, and they're straight thread mushroom. And when I say mushroom, that's the actual part that goes from the outside of the boat sort of through the hull to tapered thread or pipe thread ball valve. Yeah, we're the ones who installed all of our through hulls almost 30 years ago. It's only us to blame. But the new installation will definitely be far safer, because we're going to be using that straight thread mushroom that's screwed into a straight thread part of an adapter flange, which then has a tapered thread ball valve screwed into the tapered thread part of that flange. Have you lost track of all the different threads? It took me so many times to have it explained to me before it made sense. Basically, straight thread, it looks like it's straight. It doesn't taper, it doesn't go in at all, and it's designed to basically have something threaded onto it until it bottoms out at the very bottom, at the very end. So the lengths need to be exact. Tapered thread, also known as pipe thread, is about what it sounds like. It's not that the threads taper, it's that the actual physical piece tapers, goes from a fatter end near the base and tapers down like a cone to a smaller part farther away from it. Why do you have these two things on a boat? Because it sure would make sense. If you gotta stick your straight thread in, why don't you have a straight thread ball valve that goes right on the end of it? Well, nobody knows how thick your hull is. If you had tapered thread on the through hull, it might not be wide enough in the spot where it engages with the ball valve. People don't make straight thread ball valves, so it would have to be tapered thread to tapered thread, and that's just not what happens. So you need some sort of an adapter flange or an adapter to make the tapered thread and the straight threads talk to each other. We're also epoxying fiberglass pucks, because those provide a flat surface for the flange to grab and a place that the flange can fix securely to the boat. It's like another little bit of a safety piece for it. This is not a particularly difficult project, at least not once the through hulls are out. Although if you have an obstruction around where the puck goes, it's going to add some complexity and time. Still, there are some steps that you want to go through. So first of all, you want to measure the through hulls or eyeball the ones that you have to see what replacement parts you need to order. If you've got an old ball valve that isn't in some bizarre location where you can't read the actual numbers on it, that should be easy. You might be able to maneuver a phone around to take a photo of the markings, or there's a cool little remote, it's a snake video camera or snake camera that attaches to your phone, and you can use it to take pictures of areas that you can't get yourself back into. You want to order your parts. Your choices on material are pretty much bronze or Marilon. There also are stainless steel through hulls, so I guess you're after a third one. We use bronze because it's strong and corrosion resistant. Do not use brass through hulls. I'll repeat that. Don't use brass through hulls. Brass is just not strong enough a material for something this critical. If you don't have fiberglass or some other strong material pucks already on hand, they are important to offer a flat surface for the flange to rest on. You'll either want to make some. Sailing Uma very recently did a whole thing on how they made all their fiberglass pucks, or you want to buy some. Don Green over at Mary Marine has ready-made pucks that are pre-bored for the bolts. So they're pre-threaded for the bolts, which is great. They're kind of expensive, in my opinion, for what they are, but the amount of time that we would spend making our own made it a no-brainer to buy his. Step 3, you want to remove the old through hulls. Sure, you should be able to remove the ball valve pretty easily. It should be a matter of just unscrewing it from the thread and away you go. It's taking out the mushrooms, the part that actually goes through the hull, that can be a little challenging. A through hull removal tool can help you, but be advised it's not a slam dunk. For starters, you will definitely need a large crescent wrench or some other tool to actually be able to provide the leverage needed to unscrew the mushroom. And then there's the what was that mushroom installed with anyway question. Because maybe you're like us and used 5200, maybe with some epoxy to boot. That made it pretty tough to get out a couple of the through hulls we had to remove. We actually wound up having to destroy 3 of the 5. One of them needed to be cut out using a Sawzall. And yes, then we had to do some repair work on the hull because it then had cuts in it. So removing the through hulls could be easy and could be really, really hard. That's likely, though, to be the hardest part of the whole project. You want to clean up the hole that goes through the hull, making sure to get any sealant out. You may want to sand the inside of the hull to make sure that the epoxy can grip well. Make sure the exterior is clear of any ridges, like if you've got layers of bottom paint that you haven't taken off yet. You want to make sure those are all clear around the area where the through hull is going to go, where the new mushroom is going to go. You want that mushroom to sit flush. It can help to have a drum sanding attachment for your drill to clean up the area that actually goes through the hull. You're going to seat the puck, which involves a few dry fit sessions. Don't worry about it. It is easier with 2 people because one person's inside the boat and the other person's outside the boat, holding the through hull in place. Basically, you need to make sure that the bolt holes that will hold the new ball valve are going to be in the right place, particularly if the area where you're placing this through hull is tight and the orientation of the ball valve handle needs to be in a very specific way. So you need to seat the puck correctly to make sure that the flange is there, to make sure that the ball valve can go on the right way. And in order to seat the puck correctly, you need to hold that in place between the through hull and the flange while the epoxy cures. Because what you're going to do is you are going to put that fiberglass puck on with epoxy to bond it and have it become a part of the hull. That through hull, when we were talking about earlier with straight thread, your through hull might need to be cut down if it's too long for the hull thickness. If you've got a super thin hull, you might have too much through hull thread that's left because you need the mushroom to fit completely into the flange that's there. You might also have to bevel part of the puck. So all of these things are why you need to dry fit 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 times. You seat the puck by thickening epoxy and slapping it on the hull in exactly the right position. After the puck is in place, you'll be able to install the flange and the through hull using your preferred sealant. Since one of the things we're learning during this massive refit is that anything we put on a boat will eventually have to be removed, 5200 is not our choice. We're trying 4200 this time. When we share an anchorage, you can let us know how your through hull replacement went, and we can all toast to having dry boats because we know that that little bit of safety gear is working just the way it's supposed to. Thank you so much for listening to the Boat Galley podcast. We hope this has been helpful. Please drop us an email. Ask us some questions. Don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. We'll talk to you soon.